Today is Thursday, April 12th, 2018. This is MMA Junkie Radio's pre-show, the show before the show. I am Goz, that's Dan. The other Dan is in New York. What up?
Yeah. Hi.
What's up?
I saw you popping off yesterday.
I know you were there. It was exciting. It was a weird dynamic having you be able to watch me instead of vice versa. Normally when we do these shows, I have one of the tabs I have open is the show, so I get to watch Junkie as it's happening. Like if I know you're about to laugh at something, because it's usually behind the audio side. So like if I hear you laughing or giggling or something, I can go and flip to the screen and I can see you laughing and giggling. It's kind of funny, but yeah, no, it was a different dynamic last night.
I apologize for not tuning in again. I only see like I only see like that the show's live, like right as like it's like 15 minutes till, and I feel guilty just popping in, popping off like the last 10 or 15 minutes, because I've done that before, and I'd rather just watch the show all the way through. But thank you for providing the link, by the way. I saw that, so I'm gonna have to catch up on this week's episode.
Yeah, I mean, Goz can give his opinion, but I thought it was a lot of fun. I mean, it was funny. I know Goz enjoyed certain parts of it. Apparently,
the best part of it. I need to speak to that young lady. Ask her if she needs anything. I'm there for her.
Wait, I'm the one who got burned here. 2 minutes, 2 minutes. Shouldn't I be like... You should be asking if I need like ointment or bandages or like a
Nah, you're done.
cool beverage.
You're done. They already told you. There's nothing we can do for you, sir. Your burns are just beyond infected. You cannot be saved.
You got burned?
Really bad. What's her name?
Ashley.
Ashley told Danny that he looked like a blue chicken nugget with feet and glasses.
What?
Okay, so there was something really funny that happened last night. Goes, you watched the whole thing, right? And I'll go as quick
I don't
as
know.
possible.
I mean, I think I watched.
But
like
you watched
40
that whole
minutes of it.
conversation, like that whole conversation where we got into, guys. If you're walking through Times Square, guys approach you with their mixed CDs.
Yeah.
And Ashley gave her experience and how it was all nice and like, oh, here, it's got my number in it. And ours are like, they're shoving it in our hand and stuff. We walk out, flash forward to after the show's over. By the way, we're coming up and listen in a minute. Flash forward to after the show's over. Ashley and I are leaving. We walk down the sidewalk and a dude tried to hand me his mix CD. I couldn't even write it. It was coming up at 30. It happened right in front of her, and I said, no, thanks, man. And she could not laugh. It was like one of those points where like you wanted to laugh so hard that no noise came out of it, type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of those. So I just thought it was funny that happened. All right, coming up in 10.
Okay.
Stand by.
This is your captain speaking. We are making our descent into Las Vegas McCarran Airport. On behalf of our crew, we'd like to thank you for flying MMA Junkie Airlines. Now please fasten your seatbelts and put your tray tables in your upright position because the descent is gonna be a little bit bumpy.
Alright, Junkie Nation, it's time to roll, baby, on MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Gold. This is what we do and why we do it, baby. All night long, we rollin'! Yes!
The MMA Junkie Radio revolution is upon us.
Can you dig it?
There's no escape. No escape. Through the vast frontier of cyberspace and through a sea of stars in outer space.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We've solidified our combat communications stranglehold.
We are controlling transmission.
With the use of MMA Junkie Radio and SiriusXM satellite radio technology. MMA Junkie Radio. Commence transmission. Live from MMA Junkie Radio HQ in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
How you guys doing?
That's different. How are you?
Good.
That,
How about
that
you?
was weird.
Pretty
Dan
good.
Tom? You all right? Danny Otto?
Got a fire hose in my hand right now, but I'm okay other than that.
All right. I'm putting out a fire too.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just lost one of our guests.
Oh.
Which one? I just talked to one of them.
We lost Ray Borg.
What?
Yeah.
How's that even possible?
Is that who you just talked to?
Well, earlier today.
It's, I don't know. It's fresh. I just read it, so I'd rather just not say. We'll rebook him for another time. He is, speaking of rebooking, he's rebooked to fight Brandon Moreno at UFC. Holy cow. Should I try it or no? I think it's 129 in Chile, like May 19th. That I'm pretty sure of.
128.
128? Is it 128? Okay, 128. That means 127 is the one in Atlantic City because there's a 3-week gap, a pay-per-view squeezed in, and all that stuff. But the fight that was
129. Sorry.
Oh, okay. The fight that was going to happen in New York, as you all know, Ray Borg was on the bus that Conor McGregor and his goons attacked, and small pieces of glass, charred they call it, right? Were in his eye, and I've even heard scratch cornea, but I haven't read it. I've just heard it. So I was more into like who did what happened, what was the aftermath, punishments, fines. So I didn't really read too much into like the depths of their cuts, stitches, things like that. But Ray Borg was unable to fight. He got paid, so did Brandon Moreno. Show up money for both guys, but neither guy fought. And apparently he's been rebooked for Chile. Not apparently, he has been. They put that out. It's on Junkie. So great. You know, I mean, we have to wait, what, 6 weeks, I think, by the time it's all said and done. But I don't think it affects anything with what's going on with flyweight. It's not like Demetrius is waiting for the clear-cut number one. I think he's still on the mend. And I don't think that Ray Borg or Brandon Moreno, the winner, is the clear-cut number one, because Borg just had a shot. And he did well, by the way, even though Demetrius just makes everyone look bad, but I still thought he fought a good fight. And Brandon Moreno, he got taken out by Sergio Pettis, so getting a win back would put him in the right direction, but it doesn't make him a number one contender. So that's fine. Let them fight at the appropriate time when both guys are 100% or as close to, and we move on. But that doesn't mean we don't have David Feldman. He'll be a guest of ours. He's the president of the Bare Knuckle promotion that you kind of been hearing about, you know, with Rico Rodriguez and Joe Riggs, the former MMA fighters. They're in it, and June 2nd is the date that they announced for Wyoming. The only thing I think about Wyoming, it's a big state, and I don't know the whole geography or topography or whatever the fuck.
Is Casper there?
Yeah. I'm thinking about Tank Abbott and him gassing. So I hope these fighters, when they signed the contract, there was a little sticky note that said, please up your cardio or please get here early, because I remember that being an issue for the UFC fighters in the early Pioneer era that went to Wyoming, and they had a fight card, and it was pretty bad. Similar to what the guys have felt like in Mexico City and in Denver, Colorado. And
I mean, training's probably different back then too, right?
it was. But still, I remember when Florian fought Lazan, a lot of guys had a problem on that card. That was what, less than 10 years ago, but more than 5, maybe about 7.
UFC Fight Night 13, baby.
Good memory. And I remember a lot of people just having an issue with it then, and you would have thought that. I mean, if you subtract 7 years from today, let's just call it 2011. That is still a whole decade past, maybe even 15 years past what happened to Tank Abbott. So we'll see. So we'll be joined by David Feldman, and we also have Chase Sherman, UFC heavyweight, who fights in Atlantic City. So I believe that is UFC Fight Night 128. We'll catch up with him. He's kind of one of those colorful guys on social media that a lot of people follow and just get a kick out of. He's fun to follow on a fight night. He just kind of puts it out there once in a while, foot in the mouth. But for the most part, I think you are left, with a funny tweet most of the time. Kind of like Derek Lewis and what he does on Instagram. He's just basically running a set at all times of the night. Goes and I had a chance to spend 3 days with him And I didn't hover over his phone, and I never went into his room. Like, there was, I saw him when I saw him, but I really wanted to pick his brain and go, what are you looking at? What are you doing? How much time do you spend on this? Because you're kind of a genius.
What are your sources?
Everybody likes Derek Lewis and his posts.
Yeah.
Is that what we call him? His video. Everything he finds, everyone just finds him amusing.
Walks that tightrope.
Yeah, he does. He does. But trust me, man, if you're on the base with Goz and I, we've looked into you, and anybody that fights for the UFC is vetted.
Right.
But for the most part, yeah, I mean, he does walk a fine line, but he was good to go, man, and he did well. Him and Jorge and Eric Nixick, they did well. So those are our two guests. We don't have Ray Borg, and perhaps we can catch up with him in the future. He's always done our show, and we always have a good time with him. Still a young guy, man. He took that loss, but he's like at least 5 years younger than Demetrius, so he'll be around, and he learned a lot. And much like Ali Quinta, when you're able to go and put in that many minutes against someone who's so awesome, think about when you get back to the gym and go, well, that wasn't so bad. You know what I mean? I got my ass kicked. But he is an all-time great. One guy hasn't lost. The other one's a GOAT. So you come back and think it's kind of all downhill from here. As long as you don't allow the ones that are younger versions of Ray Borg to catch you before you have a chance to do what you need to do. Whether it's wait out Demetrius Johnson, hope somebody else beats Demetrius Johnson, I don't know. That happened with the strawweights. Everybody thought Joanna was unbeatable. I think I was in that category. I was like, wow, when you take her down, she gets back up, and if you strike with her, she outstrikes you, and she's got cardio for days, and she's confident, she's got swag, and she's just getting better. Here comes Rose Namajunas, who's had 3 or 4 losses, including some to fighters who have lost to Joanna. I think of Carla Esparza. I think of Carolina. And even Claudia, right? Claudia's got to win over
That's what's
Rose.
going to make it so interesting. That's why I brought up the Hallman, Trigg, Matt Hughes thing. Because I could see somebody like Claudia Gadelha, her game could give Rose a lot of trouble.
By the way, has she beaten Rose?
Claudia?
Yeah. They haven't fought, right?
No,
okay,
they never
so just
fought.
Carolina
It's
and
good
Carla
matchup.
were two that jumped out at me. And they've all lost to Joanna, and now guess what? Joanna's out of the picture. With 2 losses, she's out. There is no trilogy, at least not for a good time, because there's been a precedent set with Liddell and Tito and Demetrius and Benavidez and, hell, even Anderson and Weidman. I mean, there's a couple of those where you're just kind of phased out. And Joanna has an option to go to 125 or just wait out and play one of those aces. She's got aces up her sleeve, and those are all the other girls she beat who beat Rose or who just lost to Joanna. And if they become a champion and fight, by beating Rose, then Joanna's back in the ballgame. But anyway, Borg has time. So, and we have time to catch up with Ray Borg. So that's just the way that plays out.
Hopefully, whatever it is just doesn't stop that rebooking for Chile or whatever. Like you said, you want them to do it when they're healthy.
I don't think it will affect that.
Okay.
And I'll share it with you guys afterwards because it's really not that big a deal. But still, this is so fresh that I just didn't want to say anything that I shouldn't. So, how about a shout out to Vegas Golden Knights?
Yeah,
they won 1-0. Oh, goes to sport his colors. A lot of people I know went and they said the place was rocking, and I mean, it was 1-0, but it got the job done. It depends how you look at it.
Game,
it was only 1 goal, but at the same time, they shut out the other team, and they got that first win, playoff win, under their belts. Because if you lose, all of a sudden, the first thing you do when you crack the paper open or go to your favorite website is, but can they win when it counts? And all that starts to add up. And the Kings, the Kings are a team who I believe won 3 titles in 6 years or something like that. And they can just sneak up on you at any time because they have that
game
belief.
1, the odds aren't on your side.
Right. So they got that one out of the way, but still a long way to go, and we'll see. I mean, what a historic season that would be for an expansion franchise to not a relocation franchise, an expansion franchise to win a world title like that. And I believe there's another expansion franchise coming in. I don't know if they'll allow teams to draft the way they did, or if maybe they gave them too much.
It's above and
Who
beyond
knows?
Already. Just making the playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
Hosting a game, having a home field or home rink or whatever you call it in hockey.
Home ice?
Home ice,
Yeah.
yeah. So they're already like above and beyond, but you're right. Like adding to that is pretty crazy. They got a goal early on in the game, but then they didn't have a shot for like 8 or 9 minutes. and the
Oh,
Kings
wow.
were just coming at him. So it's weird because I think they might have got away with one last night.
Oh, really?
Because I don't think they played very well. Thankfully, the Kings didn't really play that well either. So they might have gotten away with one last night, but it wasn't their best performance.
And shout out to the Vegas Golden Knights because they have created a fun atmosphere here in the city where it's different. You know, this sport was born in the north, the northeast, and I'm sure many would come out here and go, what the hell is going on? You know, it's just different. But we're in a desert, and we're now creeping into the high 80s and the 90s. So you're not going to get guys coming in with, you know, old school jackets and gear and apparel. It's the first year. And beanies. It doesn't have that hockey feel, I guess. I heard there was a band out there, and people were congregating, and it was just the place to be. And then everyone comes in, and, of course, I've seen the production before a game, and it's top-notch. Couple things, you know, some East Coasters might go, well, that's corny, dog, or whatever. But for the most part, I think everyone said, hey, I get it. I get what they're doing. It's fun. And they won. So good on them. Also, we'll turn the page here and we'll go MMA because this is an MMA show. But did you see Juventus and Real Madrid?
I didn't see the ending to it.
So the Champions League is a tournament that decides the best club in Europe. And for all intents and purposes, you could say the best club in the world. Now, South America's got their version, Copa Libertadores. And in the end, they all kind of get together, and usually the European team wins the whole World Cup tournament that they have. So that's why we say, for all intents and purposes, you wind up being the best club. I mean, they're the best funded club, and they usually have the best talent. It's just that every once in a while, some young team in South America, with players who will soon be playing in Europe, they just catch you. But whatever. They're down to the final 8, and Real Madrid is one of the best ever, especially when it comes to that tournament. And they have Cristiano Ronaldo, probably the most popular athlete in the world and probably the richest athlete in the world. So this guy, you know, he rises to the occasion. But get this, they played in Italy last week and won 3-0. That's rare in soccer. And now they were coming home because it's a home and away series. And Italy had to win at least 3-0 just to send it into like an overtime of sorts. That is a tough task, man, because soccer teams at home usually just hold court, a tennis term. They get that first goal early. The show was still on yesterday. I kind of elbowed goes and I go, look. So you get that first goal early, and there's belief. Hey, can we do it? But you still got to get 2 more. Man, I'll be damned if they didn't get the 2 more and still had 30 minutes left in the game with momentum. The whole Bernabeu, which is what the stadium's called out there, Santiago Bernabeu, 90,000 was just quiet. And their team was, 30 minutes from going out because if Juventus scored an away goal, and this is where it gets complicated, it counted as 2. Real Madrid would have had to score 2 more goals to offset their 1. So they could not give up another one. Anyway, with like minutes to go, they may have even been in injury time. A penalty was awarded. Ronaldo nails it, and that was it. But that was just the talk on all the websites I visit, some Twitter feeds that I follow. Is it a penalty? You know, it reminded me of Mexico. No fue. What would they say, Mexico? Sí fue penal. No
something
fue.
Like that. Remember that?
No fue penal. It was like a hashtag, yeah, where people would always argue about it. And when they argued about it, you would reference that certain game. And this one will get talked about, except I clearly think it was a penalty. That's it.
Yeah.
And you would have to give a lot of benefit to the defender and maybe watch a certain angle that doesn't show contact within this penalty area where you just can't touch other players. And then a legendary player for that Italian team, that's arguably probably his last game it's his final season. He's a Hall of Famer, but that's his last game in that tournament because with the penalty, and he gets tossed out. So it was a real big thing. But, great day for sports overall, just even outside of ours. And I know a lot of you just ain't, that's not your thing. Some of you love wrestling and you hate soccer. Some love soccer and hate wrestling. Some actually like both. Some like both but hate football. It's the most confusing thing to me. I just love sports in general. There's a few that it's not that I dislike them because anytime I go to an athletic event, I can usually get into it, especially if I put a bet on it. But for the most part, you just ain't got time, so you don't get around to it.
That's my excuse, man. I mean, even just hearing you just now it certainly makes me miss it, especially, when you're talking about hockey or soccer, because there's that dynamic, like you were just kind of laying out, where 1 or 2 goals might not sound like a lot, but there's a lot of drama as far as catching up to those goals, or if when someone does even make like a 2-goal comeback, like it's a big thing. It doesn't sound like a big thing, You're talking about 7 points or, this point conversion or whatever, you're talking about different games. But, yeah, I miss that. I certainly miss basketball. That was the one I grew up with, We just had March Madness here, of course. When you guys were going ham on that, it was definitely bringing me back to basketball, man, making me miss that. But for me, it's a valid excuse for me, granted, but it's time, man. I just don't have the time to heck, I wanted to go back and watch stuff from this past weekend in MMA, and I have tough time watching within my own lines here. Sometimes
really?
Catching everything sometimes.
Yeah, we didn't really touch on Bellator too much.
Benson got a win. He promised the finish, or boasted that he was going to really go for the finish.
He was a lot more aggressive.
He got it over Roger Huerta, and that was the promotion's debut in Hungary, I believe, right? They haven't been there before.
Yeah.
Has anyone been there before?
I think they've been there before.
Have they? Okay. And they're going to Italy soon, so we'll see. It just happened to fall on the same weekend as the UFC's best card on paper prior to it falling apart, which was right around the time that Bellator was live, not on tape delay, and a day after everything that happened with Conor McGregor, which arguably may have done even more traffic than Fight Night itself. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly.
What you got there?
This is what I was telling you about yesterday that I was laughing at. It's somebody took the FIFA game and then made it so that the Real players are congratulating the ref.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
That's a pretty funny burn, right?
It is a funny burn. There's some talented people out there, man, that can whip up stuff quickly.
This is like hours after that happened. That's why I thought it was so amazing that somebody actually had that.
By the way, do you guys watch Embedded?
Yeah.
Dan?
I do. I try to, yeah.
Okay. Did you ever see that scene where Habib and Ali are on the bus and they're laughing their asses off?
Oh, no, I didn't see that one, no.
It was probably like Embedded 3. I think it was before all the crazy stuff. And what they're laughing at is a cartoon.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
That cartoon guy, he has kind of like
where Tony Ferguson's hitting his knee up on the... Yeah.
And he has one of those like Middle Eastern type names.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm supposed to say Persian or Arabic, or I don't want to offend anybody. So Middle Eastern type name.
I can pull him up.
And so I've seen his name 3 or 4 times now. He does them quick.
Yeah.
Now they're not like 10 minutes long or 5 minutes long. They're quick. But now I know what they're laughing at. He had me laughing. I don't know if this is just a new guy on the scene or if he's been doing it and I'm late to the party or what. But he's pretty funny. If you guys can find it, plug his name because he's doing some really funny stuff, and he's putting it out there rather quickly, and now I know why Habib and Ali were laughing their asses off. I don't know that we offered too much as far as so we did interview Jim Ross, and he said what he said, WWE legend. He couldn't have said more about he couldn't have been more complimentary about Ronda Rousey's debut in WrestleMania. But I know I didn't see WrestleMania, and did you?
I just saw that fight.
Okay, and I don't know.
I just saw some of the highlights. That was it.
But what I wanted to ask you was, I did catch Raw, and have you guys started to warm up to Ronda? Could she bring you back to pro wrestling maybe a little bit, or at least maybe fast forward just to see what she's up to?
Maybe fast forward. It's nothing against.
I think they got me too.
It's nothing against WWE. It's just I think Raw's like a 3-hour program. I just don't have 3 hours. Like if I had it, I would rather read more about MMA or watch fights that I couldn't get around to. It just seems like too much to keep track of.
Yeah, that Stephanie McMahon's pretty talented too, man. Like,
well, she doesn't have to do any of that. She's a millionaire, right?
I know. Like, she had this little spin to how basically she was giving Ronda props, but at the same time, she was, I don't know. She was very creative. Reminded me of just her dad when he was younger, and the audience didn't make it easy for her. And where a lot of other people would crumble, she fed off it. Dan, you were going to say something?
Oh, no, I was just saying, I got the guy's name. It's Mojahed Fudalat. I'm sorry if I mispronounced it, but I'll give you the proper Twitter handle, at MOJAHED, last name FUDAILAT. And he's the one that does those really funny animated cartoons. As far as the WWE stuff, it almost wants me to suck me in, especially after talking to Jim Ross yesterday, which was a great interview on yesterday's show. People who haven't listened to it, go back and listen to that. But, it means a lot coming from that guy who's been 40-plus years to say that was his debut. And even I listened to a little bit of a pro wrestling podcast that's on the same channel of other podcasts I listen to. And I usually don't listen to it, but I had some extra time to kill on the drive in. And again, I didn't watch. I'm not up to date with pro wrestling, so I wanted to hear. And these guys sound like they're pretty committed. They're pretty heads, if you will, into the pro wrestling scene, and they all sounded very impressed by Ronda's match as well. And Stephanie McMahon apparently came to bat and delivered as well. So you weren't just praising nothing there, George. Apparently she delivered as well compared to how she normally does. And it does make me curious because that's what I want to see. I love that seeing that catch style, like I was talking with Jim yesterday on the show, go to the mainstream wrestling. It's just getting past more, the storylines and stuff like that. Because even if it is whether it's not your thing, or even if it's someone like me where that was my thing when I follow pro wrestling, that takes a lot of time because you got to get back into the storylines to know who's feuding with what. And I think that kind of makes the whole package work too. You got to commit.
And I consider Mauro Ranallo kind of like not just, I guess, a colleague, but a friend, because we've gotten to know him a little personally.
Mm-hmm.
And did you guys happen to see that little 5-minute video of kind of like the best of Mauro Ranallo?
No.
So catch it if you get a chance. I think if you just go to his Twitter feed, he's retweeted and thanked whoever put it out there. But it's 5 minutes of him just, putting it all out there for the fans. That's why the fans love him so much. And even though he cut ties with them early on, after months, I don't think he made the year mark of SmackDown, he eventually got called back, and he's the lead guy for NXT. But between him and Ronda, I could easily see myself possibly falling for that trap. And I know one thing, it is 3 hours, but when you fast forward, there's a lot of commercials and kind of bullshit you can get through if you want, which may cut it down to at least an hour and a half, maybe even an hour. Because if you see a triple threat match and you just don't recognize the names, you can kind of get through that. And so I got through it pretty quickly.
I'd need somebody to tutor me just really quick on all right, what's the difference between SmackDown and Raw? What is this belt?
Well, here's
what
the
is
thing.
That? Catch me up a little bit, and then maybe I would give it another shot.
Here's another thing that's going to happen is they're going to have a shakedown of the roster talent. And I think it's next week, and I think it's on Raw. And there's SmackDown guys that want to come over to Raw, and maybe vice versa. And I don't know if they're going to reshape what's going on. So if you are going to give it a shot, that might be the week, because then you'll know who's what, and you'll kind of be able to tell, well, who are the heavies. Oh, they must he must be a star in SmackDown. I got to keep an eye on him. And, they have their commissioners, Kurt Angle. I forget who the other one is. But, I don't know.
Jack Tunney back in the day.
One thing's for sure. All you got to do is just not be into it one day, right? If you gave it a month and then realize, shit, my belly's growing, or I'm just not getting things done, then guess what? You just stop recording it and move on. And
Yeah.
because a month is 12 hours of your time, or 3 hours on a Monday, if you want to watch it live and tweet and be into it like others are. And there's so many that somehow do find the time to do it. And maybe that's their Monday Night Football. But see, come football, I'm a Monday Night Football game. Although I don't watch all 3 hours, but I have it on and I just observe and whatever. And it's just fucking budgeting your time.
Yeah, it's true. It feels like an event, though, because on Twitter you see that, Sunday, here comes the football crowd, Monday night, and then there's a section of my Twitter who's tweeting about WrestleMania, where I'm just like, oh, it must be nice. Huh? Back to watching some fights. Fight pass. But yeah, it's funny. It goes into different waves, and it's a commitment. You do that math like that. You break it down. You commit your time.
If I didn't have that flight coming back, I probably would have ordered it like we did 3 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe 5 years ago. We just said one day, hey, you want to do it? All right, cool. We watched it, and I remember thinking it wasn't that great, but we hadn't seen it for so long that we were probably just missing everything. I think WrestleMania also is a whole weekend, and all the festivities. It's not just a fight card. And I think I've heard people say Brock and Reigns, their main event, wasn't all that either. So who knows? But we got to take a break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on SiriusXM Rush 93. On the way out, let me leave you with this. Holly Holm meets Megan Anderson. So that's an interesting matchup because it doesn't involve the featherweight champion. It is at 145 pounds. And Megan Anderson has apparently gotten past her issues, personal issues, work issues. I don't know. Whatever they are, she's booked. And this should be a great fight, man. And I guess Holm maybe is sticking around at 45. I thought maybe she was going to try her luck at 35 and make a run at Amanda, which I'd love to see that. Also, one other matchup, Manny, Bermudez versus Davy Grant. They're going to Liverpool. And like we mentioned earlier, Ray Borg and Brandon Marino have been rebooked for Santiago, Chile. When we come back, we'll be talking to the president of the Bare Knuckle promotion, David Feldman. So stay close. We'll be right back.
They are the stretch marks on the underbelly of the MMA community. But hey, stretch marks are the new tats. They are Gorgeous George and Goes.
Fantasy baseball season is in full swing, and SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio can take your team to a championship. Hear expert advice from the best fantasy baseball analysts, plus interviews with big league players and general managers. If you play fantasy baseball, you need to listen to SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio, Sirius 210, XM87, and on the SiriusXM app. Do that by searching Fantasy Sports. How do they do it? That's an everyday sport. There would be times when I played fantasy football and I'd forget to turn in my lineup, and that's once a week. I mean, you got to really geek out on this stuff, right? Every day?
I don't think I could.
It's like brushing your teeth, or there's got to be a day where you just blow it, and all of a sudden some other guy's
washing your hair, right? Something that you do every day.
Yeah.
At least if you're a hygienic individual.
Mm-hmm. All right, we're going to talk Bare Knuckle FC. They're promoting an event in Wyoming. You realize this is the first state-sanctioned bare knuckle card. 1889. Not 1989, 1889.
History.
When I see that and I see their poster, I just thought, man, that's cool. Like, that's a good draw, If I'm driving and I see that billboard, I'm like, holy crap. Like, I want to get more information on something like that. So that stat alone drew me when I got the call from Sean Wheelock. Their president, David Feldman, he's joining us right now on MMA Junkie Radio. How you doing, sir? David, nice to have you here on the show.
I'm doing well, guys. Thanks for having me.
Man, I love that stat, and I love the poster. Just 1889. I'm drawn to this. Even though I'm not going to be able to get to Wyoming, you already got yourself a pay-per-view sold with me.
Beautiful, beautiful, man. Yeah, it's crazy, but we've been working on this project for a long time now, about 7 years in the making. History in the making, 130 years or so it's been since the last bare knuckle state-sanctioned and regulated event happened. So we thought, about every 25 years it's time to do something new. 25 years ago, Art Davie started the UFC, so 25 years later we're going to bring back bare knuckle boxing, bare knuckle fighting event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you got some talent assembled. I seen some names there. Rico Rodriguez, a former UFC champion. Joe Riggs, he's fought at Bellator, the UFC. He's actually fought everywhere. Maurice Jackson, local guy out of Las Vegas. We were just talking about that during the break. He's there. Eric Prindle, DJ Linderman, Johnny Bedford. So something I thought a project like this, you may have trouble finding competitors, but you're not having that. You're not having any trouble at all.
I mean, they're really knocking our door down now. We officially announced it 2 days ago, and once we officially announced it, I'm probably looking right now at about 1,000 emails that came in from fighters, and pretty good fighters that wanted to be involved. This is a great chance for a lot of up-and-coming fighters and guys, kind of that couldn't really find their niche on which combat sport that they were into to be a pioneer on something like this. Everybody remembers the beginning days of UFC, and they remember all the fighters that fought then, and I think this is a great opportunity for them to be remembered as well.
So is it because it's raw and primal, or are you guys cutting some big checks over there? Like, I'll be honest, I know a lot of fighters, and they'll kind of do almost anything if, in their words, if they pay me. You know what I mean? So talk to me a little bit about that. What seems to be the draw?
I think the draw is just what I said. I mean, we're definitely paying fair. We're not paying any crazy money, but we're not paying chump money either. So we're absolutely paying some fair money for this one. This is the first one, and people don't really know what it is, so you have to pay them a little more so they get interested in this. But I think it's they get a chance to be at the beginning of something now. There were a lot of these guys were in the UFC and Bellator, K1 fighters. We have a really good Russian fighter from also 29-3 K1 guy. So we got a lot of guys from different various combat sports, and a lot of guys are just competing. They're making good money, but they're never going to be the champ. So I think this is an opportunity for them guys to find their niche in something a little different. And Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship, it's here. It's arrived, and as our little tagline is, we're welcoming everybody to a new era in combat sports.
On June 2nd,
we're here to stay. We're not here for one show. Just so you know, we have a rollout plan here. We're not here for one show. We have three tentative shows planned right now, and then 9 next year. So as these states start opening up and seeing that it is a little safer, but it is a little bit more exciting as well. If they start opening the door to us, then we will be producing more events in all these other states as well.
And this event that we're talking about, June 2nd, Cheyenne, Wyoming, which features the former UFC Bellator fighters that I mentioned earlier, some pro boxers. Is Cheyenne a city that has altitude, like Casper, Wyoming, where the UFC went early on, like in the 90s, and guys were huffing and puffing? Tell me a little bit about Cheyenne. What's that like?
It is. It does have altitude. It's not quite as bad as Casper or Denver, but it's definitely, there would absolutely be some altitude issues there. The rounds are, so we're doing 5, 7, and 9 rounds, and they're 2-minute rounds. So we wanted the rounds to be a little shorter because we thought it would add a little more excitement, and I don't think these top tier and top quality professional athletes that we do have fighting are going to get winded in 7 2-minute rounds.
The fighters will not wear gloves. They can wrap their hands to protect the knuckles 1 inch, but for the most part, that's it, right?
No, they cannot. They cannot wrap their hands over the knuckles. So the knuckles are completely bare. It's 1 inch below the knuckles on the mid hand. So it's only really to protect the mid hand from a boxer fracture, the thumb and the wrist. Their knuckles are completely bare. We are the only legal, sanctioned, and regulated bare knuckle fighting event in the entire world in 130 years.
This is nuts, but so primal that my interest is piqued here. All right, David Feldman joining us here from Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. They have an event on June 2nd in Cheyenne, Wyoming. It is a pay-per-view if you can't get to Cheyenne, and it's available for $29.99. What do you have for Dave Feldman?
David, even before commissions came around, it took a while for the UFC to kind of figure out what rules were best for them and how they wanted to handle things. As far as your organization goes, like, how set are you guys on your rules? I know punching is the only strike allowed. Is this all stuff that you guys are just feeling out, or do you feel like this rule set is something that will just stick the whole way through?
I mean, we're definitely open for suggestions as we roll this out, but I mean, it's always going to be punching is the only strike allowed. I mean, that's it. It'll never go to elbows, knees, kicks, anything like that. It's only going to be punching, and there's definitely some inside fighting where you can hold and punch, clinches, Muay Thai clinches, and things of that nature. So it adds in a little bit different of a twist. We kind of call it bare knuckle boxing with a twist, and that's what it's bare knuckle fighting. But we're absolutely open for evolving this thing. As it evolves and making some changes. We think it's the right time, and it's a good fit because here's the thing is, unlike the UFC when it started, when I was talking to Art Davey about this a long time ago, unlike the UFC when it started, nobody really knew what to expect there, as they don't really know what to expect here, but they didn't really associate with jiu-jitsu and different things like that. But everybody in the world, everybody can associate with a fist fight.
Gotcha.
Schoolyards everywhere. So I think it's it attaches to the general public just a little bit more. And we're hoping that everybody buys into it. Obviously, I think we have some pretty decent names here that are going to put on some great fights, and I think the fans are really going to enjoy this.
As far as the training goes for this, do you know fighters that are preparing for this, is most of their work done bare knuckle, like Muay Thai? Are they just trying to condition their hands, or do they still kind of protect their hands up until the event?
Well, they're definitely trying to condition their hands. That was the big question with a lot of these fighters. What do we do to condition them? And one of the guys that's fighting on this card, Bobby Gunn, he is the lineal heavyweight bare knuckle champion. He's fought a lot of underground fights and fought some other fights all over the world. He's been doing this for a long time and kind of gave some of these guys a little bit of tips where to hit the walls real soft and then harder and harder and harder. Condition it just as you would condition your shin for Muay Thai or anything like that. You absolutely have to condition your knuckles because they're going to get bruised, they're going to get hurt. They're not necessarily going to get broken, but they're going to get bruised and they're going to get some damages there. So you absolutely have to condition your knuckles, and there's different things that these guys are going to be doing to do that.
Here's an old school trick from the boxing world. Do push-ups on your knuckles. Remember we shared that with Cub Swanson when he was breaking his hand a lot? Yeah. And he hasn't luckily had that problem in a long time. But I had looked into that, and that's one way to alleviate that and make your hands, and I don't know if it extends to the knuckles as well, but he was having he was breaking a lot of bones in his hands, and he was doing it quite frequently, and I'm sure there's other techniques, and that was almost 10 years ago. But anyway, Dan Tom, our fight analyst, he's got a couple questions for you, David. Go ahead, what you got?
Oh, yeah, no, I definitely appreciate the bare-knuckle boxing talk. I mean, I come from the traditional martial arts world, so as far as the conditioning goes, yeah, I mean, it sounds kind of crazy to some people, but abuse and recovery was kind of what I was taught, whether we were doing it with our shins, with, Filipino collie sticks to condition our shins for checking kicks, or we would also do the bare-knuckle push-ups, and as well as conditioning by punching things as well. There's a lot of old-school training methods there, but I'm also real big, David, into head trauma and fighter safety, and a lot of people have had similar conversations I brought on the show, where we talk about head trauma and the kind of myths about it. How depending on what sports actually produce concussions. When you look at, I think girls soccer ranks amongst the highest, and all these myths. So when you look at something like bare knuckle, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people on the fence and maybe judging about the safety. And I know you're obviously educated on that, but can you speak on that, David, as far as people on the fence about safety, wondering where this argument comes from as far as how bare knuckle may actually be safer than repetitive blows with a cushioned fist?
Absolutely. I mean, that's my first pitch, that it's a safer combat sport. It's probably the safest combat sport. Although you will get more superficial lacerations, you won't get the big, deep, and long lacerations, and you absolutely won't get the type of head trauma. So this is what I say in layman's terms, and then we'll get into fighting terms. So what I say in layman's terms, let's be a little extreme here. Let's take a brick, and I hit you in the head with the brick. It's going to knock you out. If I pad that brick, I'm going to be able to hit you 5, 6, 7 times before I knock you out. So then I ask, what's better for the brain, 1 concussive shot or 5, 6, 7 concussive shots? I mean, that's in layman's terms so the general public can get it. So if I ask you to hit a wall, and you hit a wall with your bare fist, and then I tell you put a glove on and hit the wall, you're going to hit the wall probably 2, 3 times harder with the glove on, because you're not fearing to break your hand or to injure your hand at all. So because of all these things, that's where the head trauma comes in. They're not going to take the continual pounding to the head, number one, and they're not going to get hit with the ferocious shots that they will with the gloves on.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that, and especially when you talk about guys with good chins, that starts to become a detriment at a certain point too. When you start to add that into the equation, because that allows them to take more shots in a padded or more what we think is facilitated environment. But another thing I wanted to ask, you guys are talking about rules, regulations, and styles, and again, for people who aren't familiar with bare knuckle boxing, go look into the history. It's very, very interesting. It's got deep roots in England, and even Ireland. They have their own kind of stand and trade style where they limit the movement actually, and it's more to produce more action. Not really getting into the rules though, but obviously it's big in the UK, David. Is there any plans? You don't want to think too far ahead. You're thinking about Wyoming first, but is there any plans about going across the pond for events?
Absolutely, there is. I mean, first and foremost, it has to happen in America, because, as we know, with MMA was big in Brazil and other places even before the UFC came out. But until it came to America, that's when it took off. So, although these sports, are happening, not quite the way we're doing it. So they do it in England, on the fields and stuff like that to solve family rivalries and things of that nature. But they are doing some legal events over there. But the BBC is not sanctioning those, and they are wrapping the knuckles. So they're not. It's not, actually true bare knuckle fighting. But the rollout plan is, we have a future for this. We believe this is going to get really big. We believe that everybody's going to catch on. I mean, everybody wants a piece of this right now, and we really think it's just going to continue to grow. So we do 100% want to be worldwide, and that that's the plan on this. So we'll see how it happens. We'll see how it rolls out. People initially on June 2nd in Cheyenne, Wyoming, live on pay-per-view. They get to witness history in the making, and we hope that everybody really tunes in and enjoys it. I mean, it's the first event of this kind in 130 years. So no one in our lifetime has ever seen this before. So it's a great chance to see some history in the making.
One last question for me, David. Obviously, we can't forecast how well the public's going to take on to it. Obviously, we wish it well. But one thing I am excited for, and perhaps the public can get excited for, is the possibilities of fighters. Now, there's some fighters on the list here that might be names like, oh, I haven't heard that guy for a while. But again, with the bare knuckle boxing history, that's actually not that uncommon. There's granted that they all can't be a Jem Mace, to throw a name out there, guy who bare knuckle box into his 60s for 35 years of age. But the point is, a bare knuckle boxer with the damage you can take, you can have a later career. You can be an older guy and kind of maybe restart your career in that sense if that's something you want to dabble in. Are you getting a lot of older, maybe more recognizable names coming to you, and are you anticipating more of that after this first event?
Yeah, we're definitely getting a lot of guys that have been around the block for a little bit. We're not, a really whole lot of those guys are reaching out to us, and some of them are just a little bit too old and a little bit past their prime, and we don't want to get into that boat for people thinking we're doing like a senior tour. I did want to add, that's not on this list, that you guys had mentioned, I don't think, but we also have former lightweight champion of the world, boxer, 49-1-1, Paul Spadafora. He's going to be on the card as well. I'm really interested to see what he's going to do. He had a sparring session with Floyd Mayweather in the past that went all over YouTube, and he got the best of that. So we're really looking forward to see what he can do in this as well. But yes, on that note, we're getting a lot of guys that have been around the block a little bit, and I think, again, this is their opportunity to be in the spotlight, to really be a pioneer of something, be in the beginning of something, and not just being caught up in the mix of another sport. This is a chance to actually be in the beginning of the sport, and that's why we're calling it, it is Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship, the beginning. And if I could just pitch our ticket site, if anyone's interested in coming to this event, bareknuckle.tv, tickets start at $50. They are actually selling really at a really great pace, so we anticipate a sellout within the next few weeks, and that's bareknuckle.tv and live on pay-per-view.
Yep, $29.99 and live on pay-per-view, and it is $50 to get into the door. Are you gonna have a local Wyoming kid or man fighting? Like, has anyone expressed, hey, I'm the guy in Wyoming, put me on your card?
And we got a couple guys. You mentioned Johnny Bedford, and his opponent is actually former Bellator fighter Nick Mamalis. He's from right there in Wyoming. So that's going to be a really good fight and a nice little local draw. We also have some guys from the Denver and Fort Collins area that are going to be on the card as well. And that's not too far from Cheyenne, only about an hour, 15-minute drive. So we do have some local flavor there as well as all these big names. But, I mean, even if we didn't have local flavor, what it is everybody in that town, this is the biggest fighting event that it has ever or will ever happen in Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Can't wait to check it out. I'm in. All right. David, thanks for the time, man. We really appreciate it. As we get closer, perhaps yourself or Sean Wheelock can come back and we can shore up the details, talk about the full card that you guys have put together. But so far, you guys are off to a great start, and we thank you for the time.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Take care. We'll see you. That's David Feldman. I'd give you his Twitter handle, but he hasn't tweeted like in a few years, so I think he's just not too much into that. But I'll, what the hell? I'll give it to you. BKFF Feldman. There you have it. Folks, we're going to take this quick break. When we come back, we'll take some calls. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM, Rush 93. Stay close.
Hey, Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Goes. Thank you.
The SEC now has a 24/7 home on SiriusXM. Hear from hosts like Peter Burns, Chris Childers, and more on Sirius SEC Radio, Channel 374, and the SiriusXM app. All right, I think now, guys, is a good time for the daily debate as we close out the first hour. And then in the second hour, I promise we will go straight calls because even though we don't have Ray Borg on the show, we do have Chase Sherman, except he'll be towards the latter half. So that way all these callers that are on hold, we can chat with them for a few minutes rather than rush them off. So here we go. This is what we have lined up for today. Today's daily debate, brought to you by the MMA Junkie Radio team, is, aside from the main event, which UFC Glendale main card fight are you most anticipating on Saturday? All right, so that's the one with Gaethje and Poirier. Aside from them, are you more anticipating Adesanya versus Vettori, Condit versus Oliveira, or Casey versus Watterson? There is no other, so give me one of these three. Goes.
Had it been a full camp, I would say Condit Oliveira. But because I don't know that we're going to get really the true matchup in that fight, I ended up going with Adesanya and Vettori, just because it's an interesting matchup for me because I think Vettori's a good test to kind of find out where Izzy's at. I like that matchup. I think it's going to be fireworks. I think they're just going to throw, stand in the middle, and trade. So I'm going to go with that one.
Dan?
Yeah, I would say the co-main event, but not only the full camp, but I'm kind of, as a Carlos Condit fan, I'm kind of afraid how that one might end up. So I'm just going to kind of hold my breath on that one. But yeah, I'm really excited to see where Israel Adesanya stands. And Marvin Vettori, a guy I really like, not only going to be a good test, but a really good opportunity for Marvin to upset people and land himself on the radar. You know, a classic upset match. So it's a real classic one I'm going to have my eye on for sure.
So the results are pretty close, actually.
Okay.
Condit Oliveira came out ahead with 47%. 45% went to Adesanya and Vettori. 8% went to Casey and Watterson. 670 votes came in altogether, and I went with Condit and Oliveira. I really liked Izzy's debut, and I also like Vettori from the times he's been in studio, and we've just gotten to chat so much about everything outside of MMA with that guy. But the reality is Condit is like the type of guy that drew me to the sport, even going back to when he submitted my friend Frank Trigg in that Rumble on the Rock tournament that I always reference. But, you know, I thought he got lucky that night. And then he came in through WEC and had awesome fights. He did it in the UFC. I feel like even though he came back in his last fight and he came up a little bit short, he still looked a lot better than the one that went up against Damian Maia, and he just looked like he was done with the sport. And then how about Cowboy Oliveira? His fights just never suck. So I just think this is going to be too much of a barn burner. And I know it's the low-hanging fruit because it is the co-main event, and there are some big names, but we'll see. Izzy's only had that one fight, and Vettori's still coming along. I think they'll have plenty of times to leave an impression on me. But Condit Oliveira just seems like can't miss. So I'm going with those guys. But that said, we had to make a choice. At the end of the day, all 14 fights, we're going to be tuning in. So check it out. And that's our daily debate brought to you by the MMA Junkie Radio team. All right, so we're going to close out here. We got 30 seconds left as this first hour winds up. And I'll let you know that Chase Sherman will be our guest in the second hour, but we have a lot of space in between. We're going to talk to Marco from Waco, Rick from Alaska, and if you want to join them, it's 866-522-2846. Maybe you can even answer this question as far as what you're most anticipating other than the main event, because the main event is just I mean, that's going to be a classic. Gaethje versus Poirier. Those guys are outstanding fighters. The matchup is outstanding. And it's all available on Free Fox, don't forget. And remember, it all starts at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 Eastern. We'll be right back.
It's my house, come on, turn it up. Hear a knock on the door and the night begins. Cause we've done this before, so you come on in. Make yourself at my home, tell me where you've been. Pour yourself something cold, baby, cheers to this. Sometimes you gotta stay in, and you know where I live. Yeah, you know what we is. Sometimes you gotta stay in. Welcome to my house, baby, take control now. We can't even slow down. We don't have to go out. Welcome to my house. Play that music too loud. Show me what you do now. We don't have to go out.
All right, here we go. It's the second hour of the MMA Junkie Radio Show. These tunes are provided by Junkie Nation. On Thursday, who did that one, Goes?
Howie D is the one that pretty much demanded the song. That's what I like.
That's that Flow Rider guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
But you say fighters, they come in and they demand stuff. I like when junkies do that, and he demanded the song, so he gets it.
Do we not play it enough?
No.
Let's take some calls. 866-522-2846. We'll go with Marco in Waco, Texas to lead things off. Hello, Marco.
Marco from Waco, Uruguay. ¿Qué pasa, Atus?
¿Qué onda?
How about Real Madrid Juventus, man? Ow.
Yeah.
Barcelona the day before. Yeah. Barcelona the day before getting eliminated. Yeah. Interesting, brother.
It's unfortunate that it went down that way because I wanted to see one of the two teams produce a goal. It's not like Real Madrid wasn't also trying and having attempts. I mean, they were able to shake off the 3-0 lead, and also, they had some attempts at the goal. But in the end, it was a penalty that decided it. Except it was a true penalty. I don't think there's much to debate there. But it sucks that those two teams had to be decided that way.
Do you have a team, Marco?
I always ride with Real Madrid when it comes to the European teams, just because Marcelo Salas played there and El Pichicho. So yeah, and when it comes to in England, I used to ride with Arsenal, but Alex Sanchez went to Man U, so I had to ride with Man U now. I follow Alex Sanchez everywhere. So.
Do you know where Marcelo Salas came from, by the way? What team he came from before he went to Europe?
In Chile, I think it was Colo-Colo.
I'm not sure about where he played in Chile, but I think he put in some time at River Plate in Argentina before he eventually made it over to.
Yeah, he did play at River Plate before he went to Europe. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Okay, enough of soccer talk, man. So on your daily debate, I'm riding with Adesanya and the other kid, I say
Vittori. All right, why is that?
Yeah, because on my book, Carlos Condit and Brazilian Cowboy are already known commodities, man. I already know about them. I don't know too much about Vittori and Adesanya, but what I see and I like a lot, it's a new blood, and that is what piqued my interest. This new crop of fighters coming out of featherweight, a lightweight, a welterweight, a middleweight, because eventually we're gonna have to make the turn, and this is the time to make that turn. Join exciting fighters with personality, so that's what I'm paying more attention to this fight.
Yeah, I mean, okay, I'm down with your explanation. We won't know until the fights play out which one turns out to be the most exciting of them all. So it really is more of a question of what are you looking forward to, and you stated your reasons. So I'm good with that. All right, brother. Thanks for the call.
Yeah. Peace out, brother.
All right. Did you want to say something else? We have time, man.
Well, real quick, Luke Thomas was talking about a rumor yesterday about the TV deal of ESPN and NBC having a deal. It's all rumors. There's nothing being confirmed or anything.
Right.
But what you guys think about that? My conspiracy theory is that the UFC is floating this around to drive the price up and bring Fox to the table. But if they're really splitting the deal with ESPN and NBC, I wouldn't be too sad about that either,
Right.
The more platforms, the better, especially with ESPN, brother. That's just my opinion.
Okay.
Now, peace out.
See you, bud. So Fox has already come to the table. They actually made an offer already, and I think it's pretty public. I think it was $250,000 per year, which is $70,000 less than this rumor of what ESPN and NBC wanted to bring to the table. Now, it wouldn't shock me if this is just some kind of a maneuver behind the scenes, but we've heard Amazon could be a player. You know, they could go down that road. We've heard that maybe one TV channel might take it all, or they might divvy it up. I also had heard early on that ESPN was out. So when I saw that, I thought, oh, okay. But it's just so far into the rumor stage that I just figured when we hear what the news is, we'll hear what the news is. If I see anything going on Junkie, then I know at least, you know, the right people are digging. And that's not to discredit anyone else, but it all started with Twitter. And once it started floating with, well, the UG and Forbes and this and that, and Dana White, you know, shooting rumors down, it didn't interest me. I lost a little bit of interest. But like Marco said, if it does wind up NBC and ESPN, that's pretty cool.
I like it cutting down on pay-per-views.
Yeah. That was another thing. They promoted that, and along with possibly an added weight class of 165. They didn't add, well, they didn't mention 175, but I would find it hard to believe that they'd go 65, 70. I think 70 would be removed, and they'd add 75, because that would really be bizarre to have 65 and then 70. Now I would fist bump anybody that says, hey, man, this ain't boxing. 5 pounds is not enough to separate the guys. 10 pounds is enough. Trust me. Not 5 pounds. All right, let's go to Rick in Alaska. What's up, Rick? Rick, how you doing?
Good, my friends. I heard you guys talking earlier in the show. Go saying that he needs a tutor to get back into wrestling. Well, I'm that guy. I got 3 tips for you. Yeah, believe me, I sat through all 7 hours of WrestleMania. So don't watch Raw or SmackDown live. I heard you guys talking about that. I've been a wrestling fan for decades, and I still just watch it through YouTube. My theory is right now, if it's good enough for MMA Junkie, it's good enough for WWE fans, especially new ones. It just cuts through all the useless bullshit that you have to put through when you're watching these shows. Even on DVR, it's just painful.
So on YouTube, can you do they already edit the show down? Is that what you're saying, or you can just do it with your cursor?
Well, no, they just release what's important. So they'll probably on the show, they'll have like 7 clips. Yeah, it's just like anything else. You know, if you're watching top 10 lists or something like that, you can just subscribe to WWE and they'll highlight. Sure, you're going to miss some of the beginning and end parts, but you know, when you're watching all these other things too, if you want to just watch a couple clips on WWE while you're in the bathroom, that's the best thing to do. Second thing to do is watch the third brand NXT, which is on their WWE network. That's used to be booked by Dusty Rhodes, and now it's just headed by Triple H. It's a good preview into what it'll be look like when Vince McMahon finally croaks, and it looks good. It's only a 2-hour show, and their special's only 3 hours, so it's watchable. And again, you can watch it on YouTube, except on NXT, they cut off the results because they want you to get the network. So that's something. And third is more of a tip and a question. Do you guys watch the fights on Access TV?
Yeah.
All that stuff?
Not always, but I do.
So just okay, well then just stick around and start watching New Japan. It's usually right before and right after the Access TV fight.
So you want me to check out SmackDown, Raw, NXT, and New Japan?
I want you to subscribe to WWE on the YouTube channel, which is not very
How much
hard.
do they cut down Raw to on YouTube? Let's start with that.
Significantly. In fact, I probably only watch things that are star-related. Like if Lesnar's doing something, Samoa Joe's doing something, Daniel Bryan's doing something, I'll watch that.
Would you say it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour? What do they cut down to 3 hours down to?
You can watch anything you want to do. I watch 15 minutes of YouTube videos on wrestling every week, and I feel like I'm pretty informed.
So 15 of Raw, 15 of SmackDown, 15 of NXT.
No. 15 altogether.
Oh, altogether.
15 altogether. Just get through, and then you're knowledgeable enough to get to the big events. You don't have to really watch this stuff.
All right.
You pretty much you know what's going to happen. And the other thing about
Rick,
Japan, though,
is there one champion, or is there like a SmackDown champion and a Raw champion? Like, who's the heavyweight champion?
There's Brock Lesnar and there's AJ Styles, 2 different champions. But the champion SmackDown is basically like the Intercontinental champion was back in the day, Kurt Hennig and Bret Hart, where it's just, the really athletic guy that has no real personality that anyone cares about.
So what do they fight for at WrestleMania then?
Just other people. It's all useless. It's just these belts are almost as becoming as useless as some of the interim belts in UFC.
You know, Rick, and sometimes I really love your calls, and other times I feel like I'm talking to Phoebe from Friends.
Phoebe?
Yeah, like wasn't that her name? Lisa Kudrow?
Yeah. Smelly cat.
Where he just kind of says like the most bizarre things.
I like
like
this phone call.
incomplete sentences, and
because I was on the fence of whether or not I want to do this, and I think with a little bit of this tutelage,
I like it too. No, I
I'm
got
willing
that
to do
part. Yeah, I got that part.
You think he's making shit up? Like,
well, no, but like, how interesting could it be to watch NXT but not know the results?
Well, you need here's the deal. Thanks. You watch the YouTube highlights to see if it's something you're even into, because NXT involves money, just like Fight Pass, at least the network.
Oh, the NXT
But why I was
is
saying
on
New Japan on the network. Yeah, New Japan, though, is good for you guys because you're just talking about JR, how much you like him. He's the one commentating on that. And Josh Barnett is the other commentator. You guys obviously like him, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, there you go. And it's on Access TV.
We did ask, or it was mostly goes, and that wasn't bad. The points that he made, I think that's something you could try, and if you figure out you want more, then there's ways to get more.
It's still on my bucket list. I've done WrestleMania, I've done the Royal Rumble, but I haven't done SummerSlam.
What's the one
I
on
don't know if they do
Thanksgiving?
the Survivor Series anymore.
Is that over?
Which one?
You occasionally.
That's right. And how about this? Did we get lucky in that when we were fans and they had tables and ladders and chairs and guys getting cut up and barbed wire, did we luck out versus the new fans that just don't get that because of TBI?
Sort of.
And I don't say that in terms of like, you feasted on the injuries of others. No, I'm not trying to say that. I'm just saying the facts.
Mm-hmm.
Did we get a more exciting brand when we were younger than these guys get now?
I don't know. I got Mankind and hardcore matches, and then 1994, one of the best ladder matches, SummerSlam, baby. Razor Ramon versus Shawn Michaels. So I got lucky enough to watch those, but yeah, I don't know what they're doing now.
And goes. How about also the fact that we were able to go behind the curtain a few times and
lots of times
see that interaction? Like I feel like we got pretty lucky to see a lot of the things we saw in some of the matches we got to see, and talk to a lot of these wrestlers. Remember when we were walking with Elvis in the back, and Mankind walks up and goes, "Hey Elvis,
yeah,
how you
that
doing?"
was one of the weirdest things ever.
That's
pretty part
cool.
of the documentary. Rick, you would know what's the documentary? It was right around. It focused on that Royal
Shadows
Rumble.
Beyond the Mat.
Beyond the Mat. So that
Beyond
conversation that The Rock and Mankind are having, we were right behind that, and right before that, like they edited some of that out. But, I mean, to give you the short version, our buddy Elvis met Mankind the night before and didn't tell us that he hung out with him the entire night. He brought him a bucket of chicken and beer.
It's a good story, so let me just fill this in.
Okay.
So Mankind and his family were staying at the Disneyland Hotel because he had his kids. And Elvis is a huge pro wrestling fan.
Right.
So when he pulled in, he goes, "I got this, guys." And he's a bellman, right? And so he grabbed the luggage and said, "Mr. Foley, if you need this, if you need that," and brought him ice, and Foley, to his credit, was cool. So they kind of clicked that way. But I think he was able to see that this guy was a huge fan, and he was cool. And there was a point, I don't know if he ever told you, but I think his kids were hungry. And so, yeah, is that when he went and got the whole bucket of chicken?
He called the room, and he said, "I'm a big fan. Is there anything I can bring you?" And all he told them was a 24 case of Bud Light and a bucket of chicken.
Yeah.
And then he hung up.
So he
and
went and
Elvis
got it. And that
he
scored points with Mick Foley.
Yeah, but he never told us that story.
Right.
So we knew a way, and I won't share it because I don't want everybody to do it, how to sneak down to meet all the wrestlers. And we did that. And this time there were like 10 of us. We pushed our luck. 'Cause usually there's like 4 of us. 4?
Was there 10 of us?
Yeah, there was a lot of us this time.
Okay.
So we went down there, and at some point, Elvis and I separated from you guys a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And it was because all of a sudden Mankind comes out of nowhere and goes, "Elvis!" And then Elvis comes and gives him a big hug, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And so we're talking, and then The Rock comes out of nowhere, and he starts talking to Mankind. And he tells him, I guess he had hit him with 21
chair shots to the head, yeah.
So Mankind told him, so he tells Mankind, "Hey man, I'm sorry that I did, that I hit you so many times or whatever." And he goes, "Bro, you actually knocked me out with the second one." He goes, "I don't remember anything after that."
Mm-hmm.
And so then The Rock's telling him, like, "Oh man, I'm really sorry. Like, you're gonna find out your wife was actually kind of messed up over it." And he goes, "I really apologize." That whole conversation was part of the documentary. We were actually standing right behind them as they were. It was our conversation that they broke up to have.
Yeah, and by the way, Foley's wife is beautiful, man. I met her as well. But that's why when we tell these stories about The Undertaker threatening Goes and Owen Wilson and those guys, or not Owen Wilson, what was his name? Owen Hart, goofing off. We saw him very shortly before he died.
Yokozuna. Goofing off?
Yokozuna, no. Well, just, interacting with him.
Oh, nice.
And then Yokozuna and I think it was The Undertaker in a coffin match and seeing what happened behind the scenes. And his once they went through the curtain because Yokozuna lost, so he was in the coffin. When they went through the curtain, rather than just letting him out and going, that was a great match, Yokozuna, because that's usually what those guys are doing. His homies, his family members, started spinning him around and wouldn't let him out. And the other guy's like banging, like, "Get the fuck, stop it," like, let me out. And so we saw that version of goofing off. But we would see a lot of things like that.
That's great.
Behind the scenes. And so when we've told these stories over the years, that's kind of what that came from, was because of the way we were able to sneak in the back at the Honda Center in Anaheim. And the Honda Center was usually good for one stop per year. But make no mistake, man, we were big fans then, and then through the Attitude Era. I couldn't lie to you and say, oh, man, all 52 weeks, I saw it every time. But it was enough to keep up and just see what was going on. And after a while, you just can't do it, man. If there's something else Goes was chasing down his degree, I'm trying to chase down tail. I don't know. I mean, you just run out of time, you know what I mean? But with so many people kind of starting to migrate over, it's piqued my interest a little bit. So here we are. Rick, thanks for those tips, and I'm going to look it up. If you don't mind, please send me, like, the link to the first one, and then that way I can see exactly what you're talking about of that YouTube. I'll check it out, and then maybe I'll become a subscriber or do whatever.
Just real quick, you were talking about feeling lucky about things. I feel lucky, not to get too sentimental, that I got to meet Gaethje over at the Junkie show back in 2013. It was him in studio, and I was just visiting. It was one of the first times I was visited. And you brought him in. He was about to fight at World Series of Fighting 3, and you were just complimenting him about his first fight in World Series of Fighting, how good you thought he was. And I think you're the one whose idea was to even bring him on the show initially. I remember sitting here meeting Gaethje, not thinking much because I didn't even see his first fight, and my girlfriend came with me, Annie. She even left to go play roulette. And meanwhile, I listened to the interview. Then I went to World Series of 3 live and watched the main event of John Fitch getting choked out by Josh Berkman in 46 seconds. Yeah. And, of course, Gaethje won his fight. And here we are now, and he's in the main event against Poirier. And it was cool that I got to meet him when he was at his but, before anyone knew who he was. And I hope he wins. I just don't think he will. But all
right, bud.
Yeah, those are my cool stories.
Thanks for sharing that story. All right. And that's what happens when you let us know that you're coming to the studio. We do our best to have an MMA superstar here for you to meet. Yesterday we met Travis, right, was his name, from Arizona.
Yeah.
He was supposed to come. Thank God he didn't, because I didn't have an MMA superstar here for him to meet. But maybe tomorrow. So it was real nice meeting him. You missed him, Goes. Former cop, works in security.
Oh, man, I was going to say, like, how bad
big dude, man. Crushed our hands, but he was a really, really nice guy. My VX went down, Danny. Who do we have? Who's up next? Punch him in, please.
First-time caller. It's Kevin from Canada.
What's up, Kevin? How you doing?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good, and you?
Not bad, man. You guys kind of lit me up yesterday with the 11th anniversary talk and saying you wanted the callers to get their fingers off the keyboards and get on the phone. So
right on.
Here's Pooh Man out of YouTube saying, hey to everybody. Couple quick things. I've been following MMA since number 3 UFC, and I just kept watching, just wondering, is Royce Gracie ever going to lose? He looked like a janitor, and he's like taking anybody on. I was like, this is amazing. You know what I mean? Like, can they not beat this guy? Like, you see Tank and these huge dudes, and he just wasn't even trying to punch him, just taking them down and tapping them out. I was like, this is amazing. So I've been here since then. Just recently started finding out that, what the podcast was all about. I've had your app for the longest time, and the MMA Underground one. So, I've been there. What I wanted to do, kicking in the doors late on 223, how about this? A lot of the fans are losing 4 matches at that UFC. Is there a chance that a class action lawsuit could be something that Conor's going to have to absorb? Could people really rally together and be like, hey, we lost, 2 hours worth of good show time in quality fights that were lined up for us, right? So that might be something that could happen. Like I mentioned before on the forum, where I look at Damian Maia and I look at Khabib, I say if these guys lose, the only reason they lose is because they're such specialists and that their corner staff is just kind of thinking, well, he can do this, to anybody, and they don't offer the extra tools that they need to make that game stronger, right? So you look at Damian Maia when he last fought Tyron Woodley, he's just diving for shots at his ankles, and Tyron Woodley's just stepping back exactly how Al Iaquinta just took that quick step back, get off my ankle, buddy. Right, it's the corner staff that should be giving them these weapons, right? How to couple good punches. If you have a ground game at this level, there should be a kick game that's like Taekwondo. You know what I mean? Like these guys should have kick games that can just dominate anybody because they're never worried about going to the ground. So you guys tell me what you think about that. I appreciate you for taking my first call, and I'm hoping to get regular on here. So this is Pooh Man tapping out. Thanks,
all right,
guys.
man. Thank you for the call.
Pooh Man?
Pooh Man from
Yeah.
YouTube. So let me answer one of them. And I'll leave the other ones, maybe the wrestling ones for you guys. But 223, when the main event was shattered up a few times, you have the option to go back and get your refund. All right? And it all revolves around the main event. It happened here with Amanda Nunes and Valentina Shevchenko. And I know it was available to anybody that was in Brooklyn. Not only that, Bruce Buffer made an announcement, which kind of scared everybody. John Morgan relayed that to us. He thought Bruce Buffer was yet announcing that the Iaquinta and Khabib fight was off. When Bruce Buffer made that, he was making that announcement to those that may not know that you could still leave and get a refund when the night's fights had started. So as far as that lawsuit thing, I find it, I'm sure on the back of the ticket there's protection there. And by the fact that the main event was affected, I just don't see that happening. But funny enough, I know there was a stream problem with Mayweather and McGregor, and I've seen that class action lawsuit come through, and there's 3 different tiers of 25, 50, and 100 of getting your money back depending on how you were affected by it. And I don't even know that they can prove it, so you can be an asshole and go, yeah, I didn't see shit, and probably get all your 100 back. Or if you're an honest engine, then, hey, yeah, I may have had some buffering, get 25, but that's available because of the broadcast, not necessarily inside what happened inside the arena.
I read a story about 4 years ago on class action lawsuits that they're actually more successful than people think.
Mm-hmm.
And it caused me to, I got a letter one time from someone that was part of a class action lawsuit, and it was basically saying that homeowners' rates were kind of racist or something towards Latinos or something. And so I had just read that story, and I go, you know what, all right, I filled it out. Dude, they sent me a check for like $2,000.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, this is about 4 years ago. And so that I had just read that study, and so apparently these are more common than people think, and
wow.
And they're very successful.
$2,000? You cashed it and everything?
Yeah.
Wow. I think mine's like, you're eligible for 78 cents. I'm like, I don't even bother. But if I'm not mistaken, I think Rob Cardenas said, once you get that letter, you're in. It's whether you can bow out or not. But if you're in, I think you do have to sign and let them know what the next step may be. Let's do one more call here before we go on the break. Joe from H-Town. What's up, Joe?
Good morning, fellas.
Morning.
Hi.
Hey, I hate Danny. I hate when Danny does this. But anyways, man, I'm loving all the wrestling talk, man. I'm loving it. This is great. We should change the name of the show.
Well, WrestleMania is a pretty massive show, and lots to talk about it.
Yeah, I actually went to WrestleMania, man, and it was awesome. I had a great time. I went to a couple other, smaller shows, and man, these guys, it's changed a little bit since when I watched it back in 2001 or whatever. That these guys really go at it, man. These guys really hit each other, really try to hurt each other, and it's changed. The New Japan that the other caller was talking about, that they do that more on that show, kind of hit at each other. But I just want to talk about Ronda real quick before I get out of here, man. She was amazing, man. I don't know if you've seen the match, but take a look at it again. I mean, it was her first match. The previous Raws that she was on, she kind of did things that were kind of like, man, she's going to do terrible. She's going to do just really bad. And she just impressed the hell out of everybody. And her match was the best match of the show, the whole show. And that's just something to say when you talk about all the other names that were on the show, man. So that's all I got, man. Good talking to you guys. Love your show. Happy anniversary, whatever. And, man, I hope to stick with you guys for as long as I can, man.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks for the call.
Easy Joe.
I know what he's saying. When I watched Ronda come out and she pointed to WrestleMania, all that was kind of awkward. I mean, it didn't give us enough of a sample size to go, oh, she's done this, she's done that. But just the little I was seeing, I thought, ooh, it's going to be rough. And the fact that she's going to be under this huge microscope at WrestleMania, it could go bad, it could go good. But within that time, she was able to just hone her craft a little bit, go out there and knock it out of the park. After seeing her at Raw, I still think it takes a little bit more work. The debut was successful, but I still think there's some improvement to be made. The bar is high, but the ceiling's high for her. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk to UFC heavyweight Chase Sherman. He's got a fight coming up at UFC Fight Night 128 on April 21st in Atlantic City, New Jersey. We'll
They were forged from the same ball sack, but act as though they've never met. They are the brothers Garcia, Gorgeous George and Goes.
Fantasy baseball season is in full swing, and SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio can take your team to a championship. Hear expert advice from the best fantasy baseball analysts, plus interviews with big league players and general managers. If you play fantasy baseball, you need to listen to SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio, Sirius 210 XM87, and on the SiriusXM app. Do that by searching Fantasy Sports. That same SiriusXM app houses the MMA Junkie Radio Show, commercial-free and in HD quality. So if you missed any part, you can go back to it and download us. All right, our next guest, Jay Sherman. He's going to be fighting Justin Willis at UFC Fight Night 128 on April 21st. And this fight card is taking place in Atlantic City with a headline bout of Kevin Lee and Edson Barbosa. Joining us now on the hotline is Chase Sherman. What's up, Chase? How you doing?
Man, how's it going?
Doing great, man. Thank you for asking. How about yourself? You must be getting pretty excited. You're 9 days away from throwing leather.
Yeah, man. Just running the roads right now, trying to take care of all these medicals. I'm a horrible procrastinator, so I gotta try to get this shit done before I leave Tuesday.
So I was just gonna say that, actually. I was gonna say, hey man, should you have done that earlier? But I guess you already answered it. How soon can you push something like that? How close to the fight can you push something like that?
Well, really, the only thing I have left to do was the blood work, which normally only takes it isn't too hard to get done. But then they just emailed me last night and was like, "Oh, we need an EKG too. Sorry, I forgot to tell you." I'm like, "You fucking tell me this 4 days before I leave." You know what I mean?
Right.
So now I'm scrambling out. I'm actually going to go meet up with a buddy of mine, and he works on an ambulance. So I'm going to hop on the ambulance with him, and they're going to do EKG there.
That'll work. Yeah. Hey, by the way, I forgot how it works.
Yeah.
Do you pay for it, or does the UFC pay for it?
I have to pay for. We have to pay for all our medicals, unless it's something that happens during the fight. So
yeah,
kind of sucks. Tax write-offs, it is what it is.
You know what's funny is he's yawning, and when him and I were conversing yesterday, he kind of opened up and said, "Hey man, I'm not an early riser, but Chase, for crying out loud, it's like 1:30 p.m. You must really, really stay up late. Are you like a Diaz brother or something? What time do you go to bed? Like 5 a.m.?"
I know, man. I got it backwards. I was thinking for some reason we were behind y'all, but I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking. Yeah. So no, I'm good. I've just been on the road all day today trying to get this shit taken care of.
Chase Sherman, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio, 11-4 overall, 10 by KO. So you know what to expect when the big man gets out there and does his thing. He'll be opposed by Justin Willis in about 9 days, April 21st, out in Atlantic, New Jersey. I mentioned Barbosa and Lee. They also got Edgar and Swanson. What a solid card, man. All right, Goes. What do you have for Chase Sherman?
Chase, when you look at the top of the heavyweight division, you see a guy like Stipe Miocic. Do you look at him as you want him to be there when you get up to that title shot so you could take it from him? Or do you look at the heavyweight division as, do you kind of like it when the belt changes hands a little bit?
I mean, to be honest with you, man, it doesn't really matter to me. I'm just doing what I need to do to get these W's, and first I got to make it into the top 15. That's the number one goal. Try to get this win next Saturday and get a top 15 fight. That's what I really want. I think it's my time. Get that win. That's 3 out of the last 4, and maybe get the fight. The winner out of Arlovsky and Tuivasa. I don't know, man. Everybody's been wanting me to fight Tuivasa, but he ended up getting a fight with Arlovsky. So, maybe get one of those guys.
I know you once said that talk from Kobe Bryant about social media and all that hit home, and you expanded on that. Have you dived into that even more? Because it seems like you've had really good success with all that stuff.
With my social media?
Yeah, and just how it can translate into making you bigger.
Yeah, man, that's important to me. I think it's important to a lot of fighters, really just kind of building a brand and doing the things you need to do outside of the cage, you know. So, and it's important to, you know, for sponsorships that are potentially looking at you too, you know, that we can't really promote them inside the cage anymore. So how else are we going to do it if we don't have a big following through other outlets? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. If sponsors were allowed, like they were back in the day, is there a specific brand that you could point to that you could say that's what Chase Sherman's all about right there?
A specific brand?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know, man. Probably Miller Lite. I don't know. I like to drink beer.
There you go.
That is a good one. Chase Sherman, the Vanilla Gorilla, on the line here. He's fighting in a couple weeks, less than 2 weeks actually, versus Justin Willis, and he is penciled in the featured bout. So we have the main event, the co-main event. A lot of people always wonder, what the hell's the featured bout? That's the third one from the top. That's where he'll be fighting Justin Willis. Most cards are 5-fight cards, or 5-fight main cards. So you'll have the opening bout, and then you'll have what they used to call the swing bout, then the featured bout, then the co-main, and the main. This one has 6 fights on the main card, so he's third from the top, right below Edgar, Swanson, Barbosa, lead. By the way, does it matter? Do you like to just get in and get it over with? Like, what's your anxiety levels on fight day, and or do you like the build-up to being one of the later fighters in the night?
Yeah, man, this is the highest I've ever been on a card. You know, the anxiety is always going to be there. It don't matter if you're the first fight or the last fight. To me, I like to, you know what I mean? Personally, I feel like I shine under the lights, man. I love that shit. You know, when I fought Dallas on 211, I don't care what you say. In my opinion, UFC Dallas 211 was probably the most stacked card last year. If you go back and look at it, it's one of them. It's up there with the Madison Square Garden card. But they last minute had switched me from the UFC prelims to the Fox portion of the card, and went out there and got, you know, fight of the night on that huge card, man, and it was amazing. Just, you know, 20,000 people in there, just all of them were on their feet, you know.
Yeah, that fight was money, man.
That
was something else.
Yeah, that shit was, that was amazing.
Yeah, I remember that one against Coulter. All right, let me turn it over to the fight analyst, Dan Tom. What do you have for Chase Sherman?
Yeah, you know, speaking of brands, something that I don't know about using that word, but like what resonates with me is the guy's walkout. And Chase, I really dig your walkout, man. What's the jam you use? I'm pretty sure you used it from all the way from your first fight in the UFC against Ledet, maybe even in your last time out in Shanghai. What's the jam you walk out to?
And I always actually I've been switching it up since I was, you know, I'm really superstitious, so I switched it up whenever I lost to Ledet, but I always walked out to Jimi Hendrix Baby Child. And then I switched it up. Yeah, last fight in China, I walked out to George Thorogood, Who Do You Love? And then the fight before that was I walked out to The Chain by Fleetwood Mac.
Man, I think we listen to a lot of the same classic rock there.
Old school hip hop this time, man. I think I'm gonna go with some old school rap. I'm coming. I couldn't really decide, man, but I gotta go with what I'm feeling, you know, at the moment. And I'm thinking when I walk out to some Nas.
Nice. He's got some good taste in music here. I got to give him a fist bump to the phone, man. But back on to business though, Chase. I know you work with Jackson Wink in the past. I know they've got a nice down in Alabama, you know, D1 facility. They have a nice facility there. Where are you doing your training for this camp?
Yeah, I'm at home, man. I was just another short notice fight, and I called Coach Wink, and he said there weren't any heavyweights up there at the time, and I was like, man, it's just really hard to. I was in the middle of moving too, but on the drop of a hat, just, you know, drop a bunch of money on going to a camp for only 3.5 weeks, and not really having any big bodies to work with, and I was literally in the process of getting this house put together and moving my family. So I decided to stay home because I kind of had a good thing going before I had got the call. So I've been training ever since my last bout. I haven't stopped, and you know, I've been working with this really good boxing coach down here, just working on some traditional boxing and understanding the fundamentals of striking. And then Really got the schedule narrowed down with the pro team here at Allen Belcher's. Working on the grappling more diligently, and I was like, looking at the rest of the heavyweight division, I was like, man, these are some fucking big ass dudes, you know what I mean? And I was like, I got to get my strength back up and my size back up, and so I was like, I'm gonna go find the best sports performance guys I can find. And I went over to D1 gyms, and they work with all the NFL guys and combine guys. I told them, I was like, I said, I'm ready to get back to where I was when I was playing football in college. I said, I just need some raw fucking power. I need when I hit somebody just for them to feel it. You know what I mean? So we've been over there since February working.
Yeah. I mean,
just building our strength back up, man.
Yeah, I hear that, and I was peeking over that facility. It looks like a beautiful facility down there. And yes, in your defense, I mean, even with quote unquote heavyweight bodies, which seem to be hard to find anywhere you go, for what it's worth. But Justin Willis seems like a guy who would be hard to kind of even if you were having some bodies, seems like a hard guy to incorporate. I almost compare him to like a creative character in the UFC game. If you were to get a big heavyweight, but maybe put like a Conor McGregor skill set because he has that southpaw. He likes to pull back. But anyways, what's your breakdown on him, Chase? What's your breakdown on Justin Willis?
He's a good fighter, man. He's a southpaw. He loves to counter strike while he walks you down. He likes to play really rangy, and then he likes to capitalize towards the end of the round with a takedown to seal the deal. The two guys he fought in the UFC, man, they just didn't impress me really. The last guy he fought really it was just a piss poor effort. And none of them really committed to pressuring him at all in any way. They would go in there and throw one or two strikes and back straight back out to the pocket and get countered. So I don't know, man. He thinks he's gonna walk me down, but I've never been walked down in my life. You know what I mean? In a fight, So if he wants to stand there and bang, but I know for a fact he's gonna come out striking, and then he's gonna look for the takedown, man. And when he finds out it's not gonna happen so easily, he's gonna start gassing, and that's when the fight will just go into my way. I'm just a high-paced fighter. You look at the statistics, and as far as the striking goes, and I'm at the top of the division. I actually have number 5 in the UFC when it comes to striking, as far as landed per minute. So, I like to stay busy.
Are you saying by the end of the fight, the Big Pretty's going to be the Big Ugly?
I don't know, man. He's already pretty fucking ugly, so who knows? I really don't care, man.
Hey, listen, let me ask you one last thing.
I just want to get that win, you know what I mean? Go out there, have some fun.
Yeah. Let me ask you one last thing. You're talking about working with the boxing coach closely, but you also mentioned 20,000 people in Dallas, and a lot of people will use the term "rock'em sock'em," and you got to fight of the night for a reason. It was carnage out there. How do you draw the line working with your coach? Hey, I want to improve my defense. I still want to provide a fun and entertaining fight, but I want to improve my defense. How do you work that balance of entertainment but also saving the brain cells?
Yeah, that's a good question. Man, I that's the big thing when I went to my boxing coach. I was, look, man, the offense is there. I said the offense is there, but we gotta work on this defense. You know what I mean? And that's what a lot of what we've done, to do. But man, really, when you want to get a fight of the night, man, it's all about your dance partner. You know what I mean? If y'all two have this mindset that y'all want to go out there and get it in and get it done, then I'm all about that. But it just depends. It's all about your dance. I mean, I can go out there and try to put it on a freaking show, but if he's running away the whole time, you know what I mean, or trying to dry home my leg, then we're probably ain't gonna get fight of the night. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a two-way street. You know what I mean? It takes two to tango when it comes to that little bonus right there.
I hear you. All right, Chase. Well, hey, thanks for the time, man. We appreciate it. We look forward to your fight versus Justin Willis at UFC Fight Night 128 coming up here on April 21st. So thanks a lot for the time. Hopefully we can do this again soon.
For sure, man. Y'all take care. I'll see y'all soon.
All right, you too. See ya. All right, folks, that's Chase Sherman. Give him a follow on Twitter, at Chase Sherman UFC. Hashtag Vanilla Gorilla. Let him know you heard him on the at MMA Junkie Radio Show. Stay close. We'll be right back. We're going to take the last break here of the show.
They taught Andy Griffith how to whistle. Here are Gorgeous George and Goes.
How about a shout out to Copperheart, longtime listener of the show. Oh wait, my bad. What's the opposite of a shout out? A stun gun or something? A call out? What was that garbage song he turned in on our way out? Oh. We just hung up with a UFC heavyweight who finishes 10 out of 11 fights. He's talking about bonuses and blood spilling and KOs. And that's what we went out to.
I know Amp Radio recommended some Charlie Daniels band, which probably would have been appropriate for our Alabama.
The Devil Went Down to Georgia?
Yeah, that's right, sir.
Oh. Yeah.
Give them a shout out.
I cringed when I heard that. What was he thinking, dude?
I don't know.
I mean, I don't think Good Morning America would play that.
Would you prefer
or
him
The
or
View or just even the softest show you can think of?
You prefer that or Ford Slayer?
Copperheart comes stronger than that. I would take Ford's song.
Ford tonight. Yeah, there was no. I didn't avoid the mandatory Slayer. We didn't get a. We didn't get a pick from Vegas Ford this week. This is the first week in 2018 we haven't gotten a Slayer song.
Probably in jail or something. All right, so
Jesus.
I'm just kidding. Ford's
still is one of my favorite street fight stories, by the way, from one of the callers. The basketball shorts brawl. Oh yeah,
oh, that was a good one.
I'll never forget that one.
That was a good one. Yeah, I forgot about that one. All right. So thank you to Chase Sherman for his time, and Ray Borg will have to reshuffle for another day. I can give you a preview of some of our upcoming guests. I've been trying to really plug away here. We had those 2 days off last week. and we had so much to cover with UFC 223 that, you know, we kind of slowly warmed up throughout the week. But Matt Brown will be on Monday's show.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Actually, now that I think about it,
he doesn't want anybody to feel sorry for him.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I can't give you the other ones because now that I think about it, I haven't confirmed them.
Can I ask you a question?
And I feel like when I do that, like it possibly jinx it. So you guys can take a look. You know, just some good names, solid names that we're working on right here.
Are we treating it like we treat the weigh-ins now? We just kind of like just hope it goes well. We don't want to say anything. We knock on wood and just quiet. And just,
yeah, especially after we lost Borg this morning. He's a top fighter.
Is that via the book? This guy right here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
You came in today with a belt, but it was in your hand.
Right.
And then you put it here. Most people make the decision of whether they're
the
going
belt at home.
Yeah, like that
right.
kind of happened.
It was the last thing. So as I was leaving, I was going down the stairs, and I thought, wait a minute, my pants are starting to sag, and I better get my belt. So I grabbed it, and my hands were full. So I thought to myself, well, I don't need it for the drive, so I just put it with my backpack. And then when I got out, I think I was checking my phone, and I grabbed the bag, and the belt was on it. That's when I should have put it on, except I was checking my phone, and I just go, fuck, because I got such a good spot that the stairs were there, and I have to use one hand for the stairs. Because, as you all know, I have a serious knee injury that I'm coming back from, so I have to take the stairs slow. It was all in my hand, so what was left of the walk, I just didn't see the point of putting on the belt. But the reason it came was because it was on the bag and it almost fell, and I happened to catch it. However, sometimes I stay here for the afternoon for a few hours, and in doing so, sometimes I'll go for a walk or to get a bite to eat or do whatever. And if I am going to stay, then that's when I'll put the belt on, because once I start walking, my pants will sag a little bit.
I thought you just zip-lined in here like – I thought he was going to zip-line in here like he was Tango and Cash.
Didn't they do that also in one of the Jackie Chan and Chris?
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Home Alone, too.
No. Chris Tucker. What was it, Home Alone 2? It was.
No, in Home Alone they did that too. Remember, he was
Alone?
at the top and he threw. Well, I don't know if it was a belt, but you're talking throwing like a rope or something, right? And
yeah, remember the Red Dragon Casino?
I think they used a jacket or something.
That was a jacket. Yeah, you're right. So that's why it's there, but it'll either go on or I may go home. I don't know. I had a good workout yesterday at Extreme. Jeremy.
Yeah, Jeremy.
He was taking it to me, and now like 2 weeks ago was my last. Sorry, it's not really a workout. It's a rehab.
Right.
Rehab session. In those 2 weeks between Virginia and Easter, and so I hadn't done anything about 2 weeks. Boy, the gym got hot. Like, you know, we were having this nice 55, 60, 65 degree weather, and I walked into Extreme yesterday around 90 degrees. So they had a couple doors open, and fuck,
I miss
I
that
was
smell.
dripping. I was sweating like a pig.
I miss it.
And but you know what? A lot of pro fighters have been in there the last couple days, because I went in there on Monday to talk to Eric and talk to Jeremy. And between those 2 days, I've just seen so many new faces. Not that the gym needed it. I'm not trying to say that, but years ago, the gym experienced the comeback.
Yeah.
And now they've also lost a few fighters, like, for example, Misha Tate, who retired and now is going to be a mom, and others that have, you know, maybe left or whatever, or now all of a sudden you're getting like a new crop. Like I saw Claudia Gadelia and Jeremy Kennedy and
Tim Elliott.
Tim Elliott's officially moved. You know who else has officially moved to Las Vegas? Yair Rodriguez. He has moved to Las Vegas.
Yeah. Jeremy Kennedy, a Canada guy. A lot of Canadians are high on. I saw him doing pads with Eric Nixick. I guess he's joined the team. And yeah, even just the general classes. I mean, I feel like I've been going there for 10 years, and I haven't been there in like the last year or two ever since. It's just been one thing after another with me. But when I go back, I feel like that older classman is coming back to school and like, oh man, I don't even know anybody here. Like, I see someone I recognize, like, hey, and they start reaching out for them like a life preserver. You know, you just you want to partner up, and but I can't. I got to get back into it, man. And watching your rehabs inspired me, George. And just kind of busy, crazy schedule aside, I got to get back into this groove, man, and get back into the gym as well, and just rehab myself.
You know who's one of my favorite people to see in there?
Who's that?
And you'll never guess why.
I know who.
Who?
Oh my God! Keep talking.
If I talk, I might give it away.
Okay, his name, I don't know why his name escapes me right now, but the guy, Algeri's, he helped Algeri.
Tim Lane.
Tim Lane. I love seeing Tim Lane.
Tim Lane's
so
cool.
positive.
Tim Lane's cool. He's always doing private stuff, private sessions. He always says hello. Real cool guy.
Oh, yeah.
I get a kick out of Ali, and I'll tell you why. I think he just likes to be a ham and put on a show, you know? So he wants to show that, hey, I'm a manager, but I used to fight. I can hang. Watch this. Because he'll kind of be looking, kind of like how Ray Suffolk gives us that wink. They're showmen, you know, and I think Ali just likes to do that, and everyone gets a kick out of it. Now, a lot of times they'll take it to him, but I'll give Ali his props. He hangs in there. A lot of times they'll put it on someone else. But Dan Ige, who had that injury, him and I kind of will hang out. And now he's back in there, so I don't get to hang out with him as much. But we'll go like, hey, there goes Ali. And we'll kind of be watching just through the fence like two little kids. It's kind of funny because you'll see Ali go through his motions. And anyway,
that's
we got to get out of here. So thanks to Dave Feldman for his time. Shout out to Sean Wheelock for hooking that up. I hooked up Chase Sherman, so shout out to myself. Tomorrow we'll be back with another edition of MMA Junkie Radio. Go out there and be a champion.